Hi, I'm Mark Miklich, Technical Product Manager for Small Character Technologies here at Squid Ink. In today's video, we're going to discuss setting up one of our SQ laser systems on a fixed speed production line when using a photocell. All right, before we get started, we are working under a couple of assumptions here. One is that we've already got a message created. If you do not yet have a message template set up, make sure you watch our video on creating message templates and message management for our laser systems. The other assumption we're making is you're utilizing the safety interlock, okay? That has to be used in order to enable marking in any of our laser systems. If you're not yet utilizing that, make sure you review our video on safety procedures. One of those topics is, of course, the safety interlock and how that should be integrated into your system. Okay, if you do have a message created, we do have the safety interlock being utilized. We can go ahead and turn the system on. We can start getting prepared to mark on a moving product. Okay, to turn the system on, again, we've got the key here in our key insert. Just turn that clockwise. That will power the laser on. Okay, before we get started with actually trying to mark our product, there's another topic we want to discuss here, and that is making sure you're physically set up properly and that your laser system is at the proper distance from your product to the marking head. Now, we've already done a video on aiming and focusing on your product. We're still going to very quickly go over that again. That has to be set up properly before we try to mark on our product, okay? So you'll see we're already set up over our production line or our conveyor. Our conveyor is not running. We want to be able to set our product underneath the marking head while nothing's running yet. So again, we can make sure we're at the proper distance from our product and that we're set up at the proper location on our product. All right, another thing I'll point out here is we already have a photocell set up for this application. I'll discuss in a little bit more detail where the photocell should be relative to the marking head. But the reason we're talking about the photocell right now is I actually do not yet have it plugged in, okay? The reason being is if we want to aim and focus on our product, we have to actually enable our marking mode. And we don't want to accidentally flag our sensor in between aiming and focusing because that could potentially actually tell the system to mark, okay? So to be safe right now, just to get set up on the product, we don't yet have the sensor plugged in. We don't want to accidentally mark on the product or even potentially ourselves. So the sensor is not yet plugged in. Again, we'll talk about that in its positioning a little bit further on in the video. Okay, so again, we've already done a video on this. If you're not exactly sure how to get set up with focusing or aiming, make sure you watch our video covering that topic. We're just showing you briefly that we are at the proper focal distance. And then we're going to go ahead and aim, and we've got it aimed in the proper area on our product, okay? So ultimately our target's gonna be right here. We'll go over the parameters that we need to set up to achieve that location. But again, the aiming beam is just showing us where our text is gonna land. Also shows us the direction in which we expect our product to travel. Okay, so we've got the laser focused properly and aimed where we want it on our product. Now we're going to go ahead and address our photocell setup really quick here, okay? So one general rule of thumb when you're using a photocell with our laser systems, keep it as close as you can to the marking head. We have it just upstream from our main focusing lens, okay? The nice thing about doing that is it'll allow us to have a very small print delay. It'll be much easier figuring out our timing regarding our delay and ultimately where our print lands on our product, okay? So you'll see our sensor, again, is very close to the marking head, just upstream. Okay, our product is moving left to right, so we have the sensor, again, I say upstream, so just to the left of the marking head, so we'll trigger on the product before it passes underneath the laser. All right, another thing we can verify with our sensor is whether or not it's seeing our product before we start trying to hit our moving targets. So what we can do now is actually plug our photocell in. Before we do that, we want to make sure that marking is disabled. Okay, again, we don't want to accidentally flag the sensor and mark at this point. But what we are going to do, as long as system power is on, we have power to the photocell when it's plugged in, we can actually see the trigger indicator when we pass product in front of the sensor. So we're going to make sure, for one, we're not seeing anything in the background, that signal light isn't always on, and two, when we do pass product in front of it, that signal light does come on. Okay, so we're plugging our photocell into the sensor port. Okay, so we do have power to our photocell, so you'll see the green light is on. We do have an amber light on this side that would indicate when we are actually seeing product. So the good thing right now is we don't have product in front of the system. We don't have an amber light on, so that means we're not seeing anything in the background. And then we could pass our product in front of the sensor right now, and we should see that amber signal light come on. And we want that to be solid for the duration of our product passing by the sensor, right? We don't want that to flicker or flash, because we don't want to run the risk of multiple triggers per product. Again, when we're just testing the sensor to make sure we're not seeing anything in the background and that we can detect our product, we do not have marking enabled. I can't stress that enough, okay? So right now on our display, you'll see we're just at the home screen. We can see the message that we're going to print, but we are not in marking mode. A good indication that you're not in marking mode is also our alarm beacon. You'll see it's just at an amber light right now. It's not green, meaning we are not actively trying to mark. Okay, so now that we're pretty much set up physically to mark on our product, so we've got the laser at the proper focal distance, we've got it aimed on our product, we've got our photocell set up, we can now look at some of the parameters in our system that we need to address prior to marking on our product. So there's a couple of pages we're going to focus on here from our main display. One thing I'll point out really quick, again, we've already got a message set up. If you do not yet have a message created, you need to do that first to make sure you view our video on message creation and management for our laser systems. Okay, so now that we have a message loaded, again, there's a couple pages we're going to work with here. The first is the parameters page. Okay, you'll see that kind of left center on our display. Okay, now we're going to focus on parameters specific to setup on a fixed speed production line with a photocell. Okay, so we're not going to address every single setting in here. Again, just the stuff that's important for this application. Okay, the very first item we need to address is line speed. Okay, we can actually type in the speed of our production line. So if you have a tachometer, it's pretty straightforward, or it's easy to set this up. That's information you're going to want to have to make life easier for you. This is in meters per minute. So our conveyor today is running at 20 meters per minute. All we have to do is type that in, and it should sync everything up here. Okay. After that, we've got marking repetitions. How many times do we want the laser to print on each product? Okay, so for the box we're marking on today, we're just going to print on it one time. After that, we have marking delay. You'll notice we're going to skip a couple of items here. Standby frequency and standby power. Those are factory presets. To be completely honest with you, you should not need to touch those. So again, we're moving down to marking delay. Okay, marking delay is how long we want the system to wait after we get a signal from our sensor before it marks on the product. That is in millimeters. So we can actually measure from our photocell to our marking head and get a pretty good idea of what kind of delay we need to type in. So I've got it set to 20 millimeters, and we'll show you guys what happens when we do adjust that, how to get proper placement on your product. Repeat spacing, this is specific to spacing in between each print if you are marking multiple times per product. Okay, so this is only for multiple prints per signal, all right, at least for this application. So not relevant with what we're doing today, since we're only printing one time per product. This is irrelevant. The system isn't even going to consider it. Okay. After that, we have auto mark. That is a feature that allows us to just mark continuously. We also do not need that for this application. Make sure that is disabled. You do not want to use auto mark. Okay? After that, we have marking mode, and our only option here is auto. We have a checkbox for that. Basically what that does, if we select that checkbox, the laser will take the path of least resistance when it's marking our content here. So if we have multiple elements in our message, if you guys recall from our message creation video, each element is numbered sequentially. It's basically we're telling the system just to ignore that and take the easiest path possible. That's what we want to do with just about every application. So I do recommend just setting that to auto. It's easier for the laser. After that, we have swap X and Y axis. We would only enable this if our marking head is completely rotated 90 degrees from where it currently sits. We could try to get a visual of that for you guys. Not relevant for what we're doing right now. And it does what it says it would do. It would swap the X and Y axis. So for our application, it would still mark our text so we can read it from left to right. After that, we've got X and Y direction with mirror options. Basically, that's your reverse and inverse of your text. Okay? Below that, we have product direction. Right now, our product is moving from left to right, so we do not have this box checked. If for some reason the direction was opposite of that, you can just select reversed, and it will print to facilitate that opposite direction. Trigger mode, rising or falling edge are our two options here. Okay, we want to trigger off the rising edge, or that's the leading edge of our product. Okay, falling edge would be triggering off the trailing edge of our product. 99% of your applications, we're just going to use rising edge. Okay, again, that's going to come set from the factory at rising, so really it's something you shouldn't need to change. Our last option here for an encoder, we are not using an encoder today, so that's set to null. One thing I'll point out right now, just getting set up, the two primary parameters we really want to get dialed in first are going to be our line speed and our marking delay. Okay, that'll get us on the product where we need it, and also should make our text appear correctly. Once we've got those two things set up, we can address some of the other items here if we have to, but really these are the two big ones first, delay and speed. We want to make sure those are set up correctly. Again, we'll show you how to do that. We'll even show you a couple scenarios, what it might look like if they're not set up correctly. Okay, the other page we're going to look at here is called pen parameters. You'll see it's abbreviated here, pen para, so that's pen parameters. We're going to access this page, and there are just a few items we want to address here. If you recall from our message creation and management video, we do reference our pen parameters. Okay, so this is where you can set up to 10 different pens. We can control the power output of the system, the draw speed, jump speed, things of that nature. Typically, we really only need one pen set up. What you can do is set up multiple pens to multiple different parameters. So let's say you've got different elements in your message that you need to mark, again, at different power outputs or speeds, you can do that. Or if you just need different pens for different message templates altogether, we can set that all up here. Today we're just working with one pen, so we start at pen 0. Okay, there are really three parameters here that we need to focus on. The first is output power. Okay, and that is what it sounds like. That's how much power we're using to mark on our product. It's 0% to 100%. There's going to be a little bit of trial and error here. Now today we're just marking on a chipboard box. We should not need anywhere near 100% power from this 30-watt laser. Okay, so we're going to start at about 50%, and we can work from there. Again, our next two items are draw speed and jump speed. Draw speed is how fast we're actually writing on our product. Okay, that's in millimeters per second. This is something we can adjust. We'll try to show you a scenario in which this is not set up properly. If we're not able to write all of our content as the product passes by, we might not be drawing fast enough. We can increase this value to facilitate how fast our product is moving. When you do adjust draw speed, general rule of thumb is triple your draw speed value for jump speed. You'll see this is actually currently not correct. So we'll go ahead and increase that. Jump speed is how quickly the system moves from the end of one character to the beginning of the next character when it's writing. Okay, so again, general rule of thumb, just set your jump speed 3 times your draw speed. If you do that, you're going to be in good shape. Okay, everything else in our pen parameter page are some more advanced settings, mostly factory presets you should not need to touch. So in your pen parameters, output power, draw speed, and jump speed are the most important. Ideally, or ultimately, our goal here is to have as low of a draw speed as possible and mark our content properly. If we do that, we should be able to also decrease our power output. The lower the power we use, at least specific to our CO2 lasers, the longer they will last. So the lower the draw speed, the more dwell time we have when we're writing. Okay, it'll etch a little bit deeper or better. We can then subsequently, again, hopefully decrease our power output. So that's kind of the ultimate goal here. Okay, once we've got our parameters set up, before we start testing, the last thing we want to do is just click center. What this will do is it'll center or move our message template relative to how we have our parameters set up. So you'll see it actually, with our template, it moved everything over to the left here. What that does is it gives the laser the most amount of room possible to write this as our product is traveling by. Okay, so just remember, click center really quick. When you're done, it's going to move your text over, and again, we're kind of aiming for the path of least resistance here. So it's much easier for the laser if we select this, let it do its thing. Okay, so we've got our parameters dialed in, we've got our message centered, we're ready to start testing on moving product. So we're going to turn marking on. We can either do that here on our display, mark on, or we can click start here. Same thing. Just be mindful of when you do this, the system is live and ready to start marking. All right, again, we're ready to send product through and start testing on it. So I could turn the conveyor on right now and send our box through and see what we end up with. I did put some just masking tape on top of our box here, kind of an easy trick to save some product when we are testing out. We should only need one box to get this all dialed in and set up. Okay, so our conveyor's on, we're ready to send product through, and really at this point we're just seeing what we end up with here and whether or not we didn't make any adjustments to our settings. So you'll see we have legible text. That's good. That means we've got our line speed programmed in properly. So again, I said this was moving at 20 meters per minute. We typed in 20 meters per minute in our speed in the system, so this looks good. We are at a little bit of an angle, and that's because of either material handling or how the laser is positioned, okay? So that's something we can easily address. That's something to definitely consider. Obviously, material handling is very important when we're doing something like this, so we can fix that. The other obvious issue we have here is we did not get all of our data onto our box. That is relative to our print delay, okay? So our delay was too small, meaning we printed too early after we flagged the photocell. So we're gonna need to increase our print delay to make sure we move our product over and get it all onto our package. Okay, so to adjust our delay, we need to back out of marking mode. So we're going to hit cancel. We can hit cancel here or here on the display. Then we need to go back into our parameters page and adjust our marking delay. Okay, so again, my delay was a little too small, so we were at 20 millimeters. I'm going to bump this up to 25 millimeters and just see what we get. So again, there's a little bit of trial and error here. Again, if you measure everything out in advance, it gets you pretty close. As you've seen, we're already very close to where we need to be. Just some fine tuning here. and we should be okay. So after we type in our new value, hit the checkbox, and we can go ahead and re-enable marking. Okay, you'll see by increasing our delay value just by 5 millimeters, we did move our text over, so now we have all of our data on our box. It's a little bit close to this edge, so I'm actually going to increase the delay a few millimeters more, and that should get everything a little bit further onto the box. So I'm just going to move it over to the left a bit more. You'll see our text is still a little bit wavy here at a little bit of an angle. Again, that's material handling that we need to address. But other than that, we're in pretty good shape here. Okay, so I've moved our delay up a few more millimeters, and you'll see now we've just moved our content a little bit further to the left. So we're on our box where we want it. Again, we still have some material handling to address here, just so it's not at an angle, but we've got nice legible print here, and it's all on the box. So pretty straightforward. Again, if you get your measurements and parameters set up in advance, it shouldn't take much to get the proper location on your box or product. Okay, now again, we did have a tachometer available to us, so we knew exactly how fast our conveyor belt was moving, so it's very easy for us to program in the proper line speed into the laser. I am going to show you guys what it would look like if line speed was not programmed correctly. Okay, so I've typed in the incorrect line speed here. I just set it to 15 meters per minute. Again, we're still running at 20 here, but I want you guys to get a visual idea of what it would look like if your speed is not programmed correctly. Okay, you'll see our text has stretched out quite a bit and our characters do not look very good. That's because we had our line speed programmed too slow. So this would be a symptom of line speed set too low. On the flip side, if we had it set too fast relative to the actual conveyor speed, our text would be scrunched up and our characters would kind of be collapsing on themselves, okay? So again, we just wanted to give you guys a visual idea of what it might look like if your line speed was not set properly. Okay, once we've got our line speed and print delay set up properly, again, there were a few other variables we wanted to consider, and those are relative to our pen parameter page. One was output power, one was draw speed. We'll focus on draw speed first. So I'm going to show you guys what it looks like if the draw speed is too low. Now, remember, ultimately we want to get our draw speed as low as possible, but naturally we need all of our text to show up properly on our product. If we go below that threshold, again, I'm going to show you what it would look like if draw speed is set too low, okay? Okay, so this is a symptom of our draw speed being too low or too slow. Okay, the laser was not able to finish writing all of the content, all right? So if you see something like this, where we're missing data, okay, that means we're drawing too slow. You'll also notice because we were drawing so slow, we did cut in a little bit deeper to our product, which would be okay if we had all of our content. We could then decrease our power output to address that. But since we're not getting everything here, we would need to increase our draw speed, okay? So again, just wanted to give you guys a visual representation of what too low of a draw speed might look like. All right, so you've seen what low draw speed can do. Now we're gonna set our draw speed too high, okay? So if we're drawing too fast, what can happen ultimately is our code will start to get very light and it might not look the greatest, okay? We'll still have all of our content, but it might start to basically fade out, all right? So we'll show you what too high of a draw speed looks like. Again, ultimately the goal here is to get it low enough that we're still getting all of our content and we can then decrease our power output, all right? Okay, so we had our draw speed set pretty high. You'll see this is still legible. It's actually not that bad, but you'll see our code is starting to get fairly light, okay? Some of our characters are starting to fade a little bit. So what we would do in this scenario is just try to decrease our draw speed to get a better quality code. Okay, so we've covered our draw speed and how we need to set that up for this all to work well. So we've got our draw speed programmed now to where we want it. Again, when you do set your draw speed, make sure your jump speed is 3 times the value of your draw speed. Okay, it's just a general rule of thumb. So our draw speed is set to 1200 millimeters a second. Our jump speed is 3600 millimeters a second. Now that we've got our draw speed figured out, the last thing we could do, again, I've mentioned this a few times already, is we could try to decrease our power output. Okay, if we're marking really well, maybe we're marking even a little bit too deeply, we can back off the power output. That's kind of the goal here. Run this at as low of a power as possible. We'll get more life out of our CO2 lasers specifically. Fiber laser really doesn't matter, just to be clear, but for CO2 lasers, we do want to run at the lowest power output possible, again, just to increase the lifespan of the system. Okay, so we've decreased our power output a little bit here. Our code still looks really good. Again, it's a little bit wavy. That, again, is from material handling. That's something we still need to address. But the important part here is we've got all of our text. It looks good. So now we're ready. Again, if we tighten up our material handling a little bit, I mean, we're ready to go. We're ready to mark directly on our product and finish our testing. Okay, once we've got our print looking good on our product, the last thing we want to do is make sure we save our message now that we've got all those parameters dialed in. Okay, so on our home screen here, we've got marking deactivated. Okay, so again, we just canceled out of marking mode. We want to make sure we save. And we already, again, had this template created in the system, so we can just click OK. We'll get a little pop-up here behind the keyboard asking if you want to overwrite that file, and we just want to say yes. And all we're doing is saving all those parameters to this file. So if we click yes, we're done. Now this message will carry those parameters we've set up. So our parameters, specific to line speed, our print delay, and our pen parameters. So our power output, draw speed, jump speed, things of that nature are now all saved to this particular file. All right, so that wraps up our video on getting one of our laser systems set up on a fixed speed production line and using a photocell as your print trigger. If you want to see more videos on our laser systems or any other products, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please don't hesitate to head over to squidink.com to get even more information on our entire product line. Thank you.